The government starts the rollout of its flagship welfare reform scheme, the Universal Credit, tomorrow. It will replace 6 existing benefits, including job seekers allowance and housing benefits. Ministers say the Universal Credit will make work pay, and that more than it will make 3 million households better off. But some charities are worried about the scheme. Let's talk to William Hyam, the Director of UK Policy, Save the Children. William, good morning. What are your views then on the scheme?
Well, I think the aim of making work pay has got to be right. And I think one of the shocking things about child poverty in the UK at the minute is how many children of parents who are working are still in poverty. And that's an extraordinary thing to be working and still not have the right environment to bring your child up in. So the aim's right, but overall, there's got to be enough money in the system to stand up that promise to make work pay using universal credit. And there are concerns too, particularly around it's usually mothers, but second earners or single parents, and how the system takes care of them.
Let's bring in Deven Ghelani, one of the people who devised the universal credit policy. Deven, not enough money in the system to make it work?
I think what we just heard is that there's broad agreement around the principles that universal credit is bringing in, which is to streamline the system and make sure that people are always better off in work. Now, I think it's important to separate the way the system works from how much money there is in the system. And there are clearly two things happening at the moment. One is a major reform that's designed to simplify the system and actually make the system work better so people are able to move into work much more easily. And the pressures that the whole country's under, which are to do with austerity and making savings. It's important to separate out those two, and universal credit's much more about the former. It's much more about making sure the system works far more effectively than it does today.
William, you agreed that we needed to simplify the benefits system, make changes. What would you have done differently?
Well, I just want to say first, I don't think you can make the separation there. There's got to be enough funding committed to the system to actually follow through on the promise of making work pay. And I just don't think you can separate those.
Deven?
Well, there's another almost £2.5 billion going into the system as a result of universal credit. And that extra money is just there to make sure work pays. So under universal credit, people will be able to keep more of their earnings before their benefits start to be reduced, and when their benefits are reduced, they'll be reduced at a far slower rate than they are today, which means that for every pound you earn, people moving into work will be able to keep more of that.
William, back to the argument then of what would you do differently?
Well, I think what we need to pay real attention to is a few things, particularly around the role of second earners in a family, and making sure that people are supported that the system works to make sure that they're supported in working and in progressing a career if they wish to, and with single-parent families. And that's where our research really identifies potential weaknesses in the operation of the system.
Deven, is it simple enough?
I mean, I've been working on it for the last 4 years, so perhaps it's simpler for me. But I think when people go through and actually try to make a claim, there are some online tools out there that help people to understand what universal credit looks like. When people go through that, they sort of start to see that it is simpler, and they get to start to see some of the figures that show that they will actually be better off in work.
I worry if it takes 4 years to get to the bottom of it, Deven. Deven Ghelani, thank you for joining us, and William Hyam, Director of UK Policy at Save the Children. It's 8:17.